All right, so you've done everything right. You've gotten your pre-approval letter. You're refreshing Zillow so much that it feels like a full-time job, and you're ready to go. You see it, the perfect home in Flower Mound, listed on a Friday. It has the schools you want, the yard you want, everything you're dreaming of. It has the right size of rooms. The layout's perfect. Then Saturday morning, it has a dozen offers already. By Sunday, it's gone, and it's probably posted for thousands of dollars over the asking price. Does this sound familiar? Well, it's a frustrating cycle, and honestly, it's exhausting. You start wondering if you should just give up, sign another year's lease, and forget about owning a home in Flower Mound altogether. I get it. I've been through this before with several clients. I know what it's like. But before you do that, stick with me. We're about to talk about what's really happening in Flower Mound, Texas, in the real estate market. Beyond the headlines, what they're telling you, this is September 2025, getting ready to be October 2025. I'm going to give you the exact strategies that are working right now to get people into homes without sacrificing financial and mental health. So we're also going to kind of look at a question like, and this is the big question. I get this all the time. Should I buy now or should I wait? And first off, let's talk about I want to validate what you're feeling. This is not just in your head. The data shows that buying a home here is still incredibly competitive. You might hear some people call Flower Mound market balanced, but the word really doesn't capture the reality on the ground and what we're going through for buyers. Whenever inventory is tight, the demand with the high demand, it doesn't feel balanced, right? Still feels like a feeding frenzy. But let's talk price. Let's get some hard facts in here. The median listing price in Flower Mound is about $680,000. Okay, that's across the board. We're talking about up to the $3 and $4 million range, all the way down to the $300,000 range. Now, some of the data is going to show that the sold price year over year is about 8.9% to around $615,000. But you know what? You can't let that number fool you, because that dip, it's not a crash, okay? It's the market catching up after an insane amount of growth that we've seen in North Texas. The real issue is the most desirable homes, the ones that are updated and priced right from the very start, they're going to fly off the shelf. There's no question about it. That's not what we're necessarily talking about here. It always feels like you're maybe one step behind. You write a strong offer, maybe even asking overprice, and you still lose. It's happened to me countless times in several different markets, not just the Flower Mound market. And it's a gut punch every single time, because once you find out what it actually sold for, it's very frustrating. And the speed of getting these things done, it can be relentless. Okay. Now, if I'm looking at things, and some reports will show the median, not the average, but the median amount of days on the market is as high as 53 days. Okay. That number is misleading, though, and that includes overpriced homes that sit there, okay? So for a home that's priced well, that number can be sliced down to 16 to 25 days, sometimes even less than 10 days. So in other words, you got a few weeks to find it, see it, and make one of the biggest decisions of your life. That's what was going on in COVID. It's still going on to a certain extent, but not as much as it was previously. And you know what? For most people, even in my shoes, I don't feel like that's nearly enough time to make the biggest decision that you'll probably make in your life. So what's causing all this? Well, it's a classic story. I mean, there's huge demand and limited supply. People want to live in Flower Mound. They want the top tier schools. It's an amazing community. The lifestyle, especially with move-up buyers that are going into the $750,000 to $1 million plus range, they're creating a lot of fierce competition. And it's kind of become a bottleneck. So, here you are, you're stuck in this basically high pressure cooker, right? Feeling like you have to waive every contingency or protection just to get a chance to get on the front line. But here is one market shift that no one's talking about. Now think about this. You're looking at Zillow alerts and the news reports. I'm going to tell you about things that the news reports aren't telling you. The market is still favoring sellers. I don't care what they say, it's undeniably starting to shift. Yes, to a certain extent, it is becoming a buyer's market. However, sellers are digging in their heels and they are staying put and they're sticking with their price. If their agents are doing their homework, they're probably advising him one way and the sellers want to do it another way. Who knows what the answer is? Whenever I'm representing a seller, I ask the question, do you want to sell this house in 30 days, 60 days, or do you want to let it sit on the market for over 90 days? And the 90-day answer is the overpriced answer, right? The 30-day answer is, let's get this thing sold. What is the price point that we can be at to get it sold? The 60-day answer is going to be the people that looked at your house once before. You're likely going to have to do at least one price reduction to get them to come back if they haven't already found something else. And that's the problem. In Texas, it takes 30 days, more or less. We could say as little as 20. If it's a conventional loan, if it's cash, you can probably get it done in 2 weeks. But once those buyers have looked at your home, they've possibly moved on to something else, and they're not going to come back and take a second look. So this whole frenzy, we're kind of moving away from that total unsustainable frenzy that we had a couple of years ago. I mean, that's the bottom line, toward a market that's a little bit smarter, that you can actually win the day and not just with a big pile of cash. Now, I'll touch a little bit on certain times of the year that might be more advantageous than others. But the biggest clue is, let's look at the price reductions. For example, in September, in a single week, Flower Mound had 22 new homes hit the market. Okay? Keep that number in mind. In the same week, there was 26 price decreases. Think about that for a second. I mean, 26 homes were listed and the sellers did not get what they were looking for. As more properties were entering the market, that becomes their competition, right? So, if they want to get the property sold, they've got to adjust the price. Buying a home is all about price and condition. End of story. If I were to sell you a home for $1, you'd buy it and you wouldn't care what kind of condition it is in. So everything sells for the right price depending on the condition, right? So what this tells us is, number one, sellers are aiming too high and they're being forced to adjust to today's reality. That's the bottom line, not last year's. I don't care what you could have gotten last year for it. I don't care what you could have gotten for it 2 years ago. The days of just slapping a wild price tag on and expecting a bidding war, those are done. We're over with that. You can't even get the amount of showings that you had. Have an open house. Go to an open house. You're going to see that you're not having a whole lot of people come to that open house unless it is really priced accurately. And what's more, homes are being sold for under the list price. So if 100% would be the amount of the original list price and they lower it down like 5%, it would still register and they paid full price at that 5% reduction. It could still register as being sold for 100% of the list price. So you kind of got to dig a little bit deeper and find out what the original list price was. It's just the way the MLS is set up. This is a huge change. Bidding wars are still going to happen with the, picture perfect, HGTV, ready homes. but there's a growing part of the market where negotiating is back on the table, and that's why you have to have a realtor to really help you dial in and find out what the story and what the history on this home is. That home could be something that was brought new to the market, but it was on the market 3 months ago and they took it off and let it rest for a month or two. Which brings me to a side point. If you want to relist your home and you want it to start with 0 days on market, it needs to be off the MLS for at least 31 days. Write that down. Something good to remember. So as we're seeing the days on market creep up, hot homes, they're gone in a flash. But the average days on market can be anywhere from, say, 36 to 53 days on the market. And this is your breathing room. This is your opportunity. It's a home that's been on the market for 20 to 30 days. It's not a bad home, but it's usually a home that's a little overpriced at the start. And now the seller is starting to get a little bit more motivated. And these properties will be overlooked by buyers because they are not brand new listings. So this is where you find your first opening, okay? The shift is not about a market collapse. A market collapse, who knows? Any agent that tells you that the market's going to collapse, run, because none of us have a crystal ball. And I've been doing this a while. It's about being the smartest buyer in the market right now. It's about seeing the subtle trends, and it's about using them to your advantage. And that's really just the bottom line. You're still buying somebody's home, and you're not going to be able to just walk in and take it away from them. But you want to be able to use the knowledge of somebody that lives in the area, that knows the market well, and can get down to specific neighborhoods, and then you can dial into the house. If you want a personal game plot, this is what I do day in and day out, 24/7. And any full-time realtor should be doing the same. So what does this mean for you? It means you got to change your game plan up, okay? The tactics that you were using if you bought a house 2 years ago, it doesn't work anymore. There are strategies of working with buyers in Flower Mound right now that are different than what they were. The herd of buyers out there right now, and there are a lot of buyers sitting on the sidelines. We're still above 6% interest rate right now as I make this video, but it's coming close. And once it mentally probably comes below 6%, you're going to see a lot of buyers come in. And that could be a mistake of you waiting to have to fight. You'll end up paying more for the house than you probably could have paid for it right now. So there are those homes that are perfectly staged, perfectly renovated, but you need to look at everything else. I'm talking about great layout. Look at a great layout, number one. A solid foundation, the right location, but maybe have some questionable wallpaper, or you hate the carpet, or something. I would call these unpolished gems, right? Most buyers cannot see past the cosmetic issues. I don't know why, but it's always been that way. They walk in, they see a dated kitchen, and they walk right out. That loss, their loss, is your gain. I mean, if a home needs $20,000 in updates, but it's actually priced about $50,000 below once the renovation is completed, I mean, you can finance those updates, right? Or just tackle them over time. But targeting the homes that need a little love, you avoid the worst of the competition and get a property possibly even below asking price. But you got to keep an eye out for these listings, and they have to be sitting on the market for at least 3 or 4 weeks. Now, those sellers are usually ready to talk. If they go through too many price decreases, it's very important that you make a move and go look at the house and take some time and really consider it, because you never know if there's 1 or 2 other people out there thinking the same thing that you're thinking. Now, when it comes to the whole offer process, so you found the home, this is what you want to do. You're ready to take on, maybe a kitchen remodel or a bathroom remodel or something like that. But it's not just about price. Whenever I am working with buyers and I go to the seller's agent, I go, before we make an offer, I'm like, hey, we're going to make an offer. Are there anything specifically that's important to the seller? Because you're not always going to find all the information on the MLS. So it's not all about price. It's a clean contract. Make it secure, a secure bet for the seller. It means, first of all, you need to have a solid pre-approval. I'm not talking about one of these 5-minute pre-qualifications that you can get on some of these banks. I mean, it shows the buyer that you're not serious. I mean, you really, as a buyer, you should be, all your financial information and all that should have already been checked. Your credit should be preliminarily checked. That way, the lender can speak to the listing agent and say, hey, this couple, this person, this family, this retiree, whoever, they're ready to go. And I've already checked this out. This is going to be a smooth process. The second thing, so that was number one. The second thing is you really need to get creative with your terms. And this is where I go back and say, what's important to the seller? Instead of just adding more money, which, everybody wants more money, right? But some things are more important than money. I mean, can you offer a quick close? Can you get it done in less than 30 days? Can you get it done in 21 days? The last house I bought, I was already into underwriting, and we closed this thing in 21 days or less. I don't remember, but it was right at 21 days instead of the 30 days that I originally said. On the flip side, could you offer the seller 30 or 60-day lease back so that they have time to move? So don't only think about yourself, but think about the seller. I mean, you really want to make this a smooth move. The more that kind of flexibility can be a lot more valuable than a few more $1,000s. Believe me. You can also offer a stronger option period. So a stronger option, like money, with a shorter option period, which, typically I would ask for, 5, 7, or 10 days. If you have everybody lined up and you think you can get inspections done and get it done in under 5 days, and then if the inspection's clean, you can tell the listing agent, hey, we will cancel the option period and we will keep moving on forward if everything looks okay. I've done that. I have done that on several occasions with clients. I did that myself personally. Waiving the appraisals were common before. I don't know that that's a big issue right now, but you can negotiate an appraisal that doesn't come in correctly. But when you start doing price reductions, I haven't seen a whole lot of appraisals that have not appraised because the pricing right now is not as wacky as it was a couple of years ago. So let's not even get into that. But all of this is going to protect you kind of from a bigger hit down the road financially. And just to touch mildly on new construction, if you're looking for something in new construction, you really should have an agent with you, whether it's me or somebody else. And I'll tell you why. Because a lot of times these builders will offer agents items that they will not offer the general public. They've already got it priced into their budget of the commissions for their own agents and for buyers' agents. So, and the contracts for those, ours are 11, 12 pages long, but those new construction contracts are easily 30 pages long, and they're always tilted in the builder's best interest, right? They're not necessarily yours, but builders are in a business and they got to move property. David Weekley has some stuff coming up. Toll Brothers have some stuff coming up. If they have some stuff that are nearly complete that they haven't sold or already finished, there might be some incentives there. And it's not just the price of the house. It could be offering to pay for closing costs. They will generally pay for a survey, and if they do that, then that's going to save you $700, $500 to $700. They can, a lot of times they have their own lenders, so they can offer you a 2-1 buy down, which is basically you have a lower interest rate for 2 years, and then it escalates on the third year. But don't go into a new construction deal by yourself. You could be leaving money on the table. You could be missing out on getting a refrigerator and washer and dryer and window coverings, which most of these new builders don't even do. So all of this leads to, what's the answer to the question, Chris? When should I buy a home in Flower Mound? Now or wait? Well, if you wait and you're expecting a major price crash, that's a bad strategy. Plain and simple. I've been hearing that strategy as long as I have been in real estate. Oh, well, I'll wait for a crash. Really? You're still living in an apartment 6 years later? The market has cooled off, but the reasons people want to move have not changed. They still have families. They might be retiring. They want to downsize. They want to right size. They want to move up because their family is growing. They want the school district, on and on and on. So none of that changes, And why do sellers sell? Well, there's tons of reasons. People get relocated. I deal with a lot of relocation myself. People have deaths in the family. There's divorce. There's all sorts of situations. So there's always going to be this. It's not going to be balanced, but there's always going to be this: sellers want to sell and buyers want to buy deal. What are the forecasters projecting? Probably a steady pace between 2 to 3% a year, meaning prices. As long as prices and interest rates are high, you could potentially get pushed out of the market for good. But, interest rates look like they're going to get some relief. But all that means is you're going to have more competition with buyers. So I always say, marry the house and date the rate. You can always refinance if you find the house that you want. The case for buying now is strong, but you have to do it with the right strategy. And that's the big deal. With more price reductions and homes sitting on just a little bit longer, you have some room to negotiate with buyers, more than you've had in a few years. And looking for a home now, you're going to build some equity, and you can like I said, you can always refinance down the road. But the biggest risk right now is getting swept up in an emotion of a bidding war for that perfect house, and you give up all of your contingencies or all your protections. That's how you get hurt. That's what's going on right now in this, not just in this area, in this country, where people were spending $100,000, $200,000 more over the asking price, and yes, they were getting a super low, below 4% interest rate, but they're stuck. They probably cannot sell the house for what they bought it for. And when they do sell it, they're going to have a higher interest rate. So it's not about trying to time the market perfectly, because you can't. There's no perfect time. It's about your own financial readiness. It's about having a smart plan. The market is tricky, but it's not impossible. But avoiding the hard, looking for those, if you start looking for those unpolished gems, making strategic offers, checking out new construction, you absolutely can find a great home here in Flower Mound. And the key here is to be prepared but not panic. I'm Chris Hooper Realty. Send me a comment, give me a call, we'll go over it. Talk to you soon.